Looks like the right screen is up, my video's up, and we are using GoToWebinar on this platform as a sample, but we're going to show you a whole bunch of other things. And we literally just wrote this over the last 72 hours and made edits as of this morning. And it was tough to figure out what to put in, what to take out, you know, and what to do for you. But we're going to make this sort of free flowing a little bit, even though there's a structure. And then we'll also, I'm just close a couple other programs here before I get that going there. Just close this out. All right. One of the things to note before I kick this off is that you know, as we have a variety of, let's just test the slide deck working okay, responsive, good. We always do these checks ahead of time, and usually not with the live audience on, but we're going to be showing you some behind the scenes things and showing you what happens when something fails, when, you know, things like that. So we're going to be showing you all kinds of cool tips and tricks here. So glad to have everybody on with us. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. How to optimize working online with meetings, webinars, and more. And as of this date, March 26, 2020, depending on when you're listening to this, and appreciate everybody that's live with us, literally we have had to make some shifts in our world at this time. So many of us are making adjustments. Some of us have jobs that we still have to physically go to. We support a lot of companies that we physically have to go to depending on the business. So we appreciate everybody that has to travel, everybody that has to be out there, and everybody, you know, just hats off to all the nurses, doctors, rescue workers, you know, and everybody that's keeping the country running while many of us are working remotely. So thank you to all of those people out there, and we truly do appreciate you out there. So and I think we have some of you in the audience today that do still have to go back and forth to work as well. So with that being said, we're going to feature Zoom, GoToMeeting, 8x8, Facebook Live. We're going to be talking about a lot of these different platforms. We have a nice agenda mapped out here, and then some extra cool things for you to take away so that hopefully, however you're transitioning is a cool transition. So with that being said, those of you that don't know me, I'm founder and CEO of Forward Progress. We've been around for over 15 years, and we've been doing webinars, webcasts, man, since beginning of time. I was actually an early adopter. I had a .com that was one of the first virtual B2B universities called LearnU.com, and we serviced computer associates, Dell, Baxter Labs, you know, the medical field. This is when people were really having a tough time. They were starting to shut travel down. We built studios for people to fly into. And I don't know how many people remember dial-up. Do you guys remember? Just don't know the age of the audience here, but when you used to like turn on your computer, it would take so long to boot up. And then when you wanted to go on, there was a modem that you plugged into your telephone line. It would make this screeching sound as you would dial up. And on a good day, you could get all 1,200 baud, or we were excited when it went up to 2,400, 4,800 baud. And then all of a sudden, you know, it became affordable to have T1 lines and connectivity. So back then, we couldn't do all the camera, screen sharing, and voice over the internet. In fact, today with Wi-Fi and things like that, we still have some of those same challenges. And now that we have so many people that are literally on the internet more than ever had before, especially at 11:04 a.m. Central Time, we have never had so many neighbors, kids remote schooling. We have never had so many people working remote ever. So we're seeing a huge shift of that we've never seen before since the dial-up days, where there's more challenges on infrastructure. So those of you that are remote, and maybe you hear things cut in and out from time to time, that could be our internet, which we have a very direct line to business class internet here from the house. But it could be your Wi-Fi, it could be you sharing the internet with everybody in the neighborhood or in your household. So, you know, a lot of times when we're having meetings and things like that, we ask the people in our house to say, hey, could you stop streaming during this hour and just do like, light duty stuff like texting and things like that. So if you think about that, we're in a whole different time, but it almost has taken us back to some of the best practices that we had during dial-up. So back then when I had Learn You, we could not have done the voice, the video for sure. We couldn't do any video. And we couldn't do the content and push all that through the same internet connection. We would have to dial into a conference line, which you can still do today. And we would have to do all that. But now that we've professionally produced over 3,000 webcasts and webinars, we've learned some things. So we're going to take you through the process. We're going to get you through our checklist and things like that. So before we get started too much here, a little more, we have Social Jack. Many of you have been to Jackson will take care of you, Don. So he'll be on that for you. So when we go to Social Jack, that's more of an academy where you can learn. We do a lot of teaching so that we can literally, as we learn, you learn. That's our goal. So as we learn, you learn. So, if we learn something new, like some of the things that we have in here, we teach you, etc. So with that being said, just keep in mind that at socialjack.com, you can go there. There's free classes, there's interviews from other thought leaders, and etc. So socialjack.com, and then Forward Progress is our agency. We'll talk about that in a minute too. And those of you that don't know, this digital business influence book I wrote, I had no idea that it was going to be a roadmap to thought leadership online, which is more important than it ever has been. So super cool. So let's get through a couple of logistics. So normally when you have a webinar or webcast, you might have a slide, even for meetings in the beginning. We have a big meeting where we're normally in a person with a client from DC tomorrow. Yesterday's Thursday. So we are sending out orientation videos and links, and maybe you saw in your invite there was a link to test your connection ahead of time. So make sure, if this is new for you, that you literally have things where you can orient others as you're learning about this adjustment in technology. So you'll notice that on the toolbar, depending on what version of GoToWebinar that you have running, you have an option to click between computer audio, phone call, or no audio, because maybe you're getting feedback and you're dialed in, you just forgot to punch in the code. You notice there's an access code there. So as we do this, you'll notice that you punch in a number, you punch in an access code, and when you switch to computer audio to phone call, you're going to automatically pop up, and it's going to give you your own code and link, and then you will be tied to your screen with your audio. It syncs everything up together, but it's not impossible to join the webinar from a phone. If things are cutting in and out, or you're getting a little shaky audio, that is actually more normal today than it ever has been. We get constant alerts on bandwidth and things like that. In fact, if you haven't noticed, Netflix, YouTube, and all the streaming services are streaming in a lower format of HD so that they can get more things out and people can download more, because they're getting stretched. So the meeting platforms are getting stretched, the internet's getting stretched, the streaming services are getting stretched, the schools are getting stretched. So again, this is the new normal, but we have to realize it's not perfect. It's still technology. So the internet could go in and out on us because our neighbors are also streaming things, and etc. So yes. And so, yes, and April said she just put in a code. I didn't put in a code, just click the link. So yes, so what will happen is there's automatic links, which is so cool that all of a sudden people have a link where they can click a button and it automatically dials and puts all the codes in for you, or you just click a link and it takes you through the internet. So if you do that, it automatically identifies who you are. That's how I know it's you, April, and you, Don, because you've done that. I have some people that are unknown because maybe they just dialed the number and figured out to put the code in. But the key is here, the message is here, is to orient your audience. Now, We have handouts. I don't know if everyone's going to be successful because, again, every time you click on something and I click on something, we're pushing data back and forth through to each other, and we're broadcasting out. So the internet could be failing, your Wi-Fi could be, compromised. So we'll get you the handout. It's more of an example of having handouts. So what I did is I took this slide deck and I condensed it into, I think, a 6-up handout, and you should be able to click on handouts and get it. And if you can't, don't worry, we will get you those handouts. So it's just the slide deck. I just want to make sure I showed what a handout looks like. Now, secondly, I want to make sure a lot of you have found the questions area. I want to make sure you can find the questions area where you know where that's at. So find that little questions box. And real quick, I asked this earlier if a couple people chimed in, but where are you checking in from today? So let's just see where our audience is at today, and type in, where are you checking in from? So just want to hear that. So Carol Stream, Bolingbrook, a lot of people, California, Illinois, a lot of people in the Midwest, welcome. Manny, good to see you on, buddy. Manhattan, welcome. Germany, welcome, Tom. We have Carlsbad, welcome. Texas, welcome. We have Puerto Rico, welcome. Florida, Indiana. Let's see, Georgia. I love Georgia. Let's see, and it looks like people are still typing. So now you'll notice that there will be a lag. So as I switch screens, there's a lag, things like that. So again, if you want to try to look for the handout, I don't want you distracted. There should be a box in your GoToWebinar control panel where you saw the audio and things like that. And the examples on the screen here where it actually says handouts. If you can't see it, don't worry, we'll get it to you, okay? So I don't want you distracted. Hey, Margaret, how you doing? Thanks for the shout out on Facebook, by the way. Appreciate that. We have more Texas in here, a lot of family from Texas. So again, welcome. So one of the things I want to talk about is once you have this technology, we are hosting, like for us, we're taking, and I'm going to talk about Zoom and GoToWebinar, but we are literally hosting a family cocktail hour tomorrow night at 7 p.m. It's private. We have a private Zoom link, and we're just going to have everybody on camera. And I'm laughing. Hey, Tony P, how you doing? I'm just laughing because I'm like, oh my gosh, our family's scattered all over the country. Why didn't we do this more often? We waited till we were locked down. So I think this is opportunistic, as crazy as it sounds. And I know we're all going through changes, and some of us may be, maybe suffering in terms of revenue and things like that. So we're going to talk about making those shifts. But I think it's an opportunity for us to also figure out ways to be more connected too with each other without maybe necessarily being face to face. So I think there's opportunity in this, making some, as Tony told me yesterday, lemonade out of lemons, right? Do I have that right? Okay, so I think that's all on orientation here. So welcome everybody from wherever you're at in the world. So for us, we're all about monetizing your digital thought leadership. So the reason we're doing this, and I told you already about Forward Progress and Social Jack, but look at our core sweet spot here. We take you and activate you as thought leaders or influencers, right? And we're not going to dig into that part today, but look at the middle, relevant content. The reason we do this, we record it, we turn it into a blog post, maybe a podcast, is we want to have content so that people still know that we are the best. We are the best at what we do. And whether we're remote or on site, we want you to know we are still here, and we want you to talk to us and call us. And right now, a lot of people have made a lot of tough shifts, but I just had a text message from one of my clients that said, he was like ready. He said, no, we're just shut down, waiting for everything to come back. I'm like, no. I said, you could talk to people every single day. You could call people, and we have a whole system for this on Social Jack. If you want to go there and download it, it's free, but it's really just called social teaming. And it's about literally reaching out and connecting with people. And normally we're so busy traveling around that we just don't get to it. We're busy building, like this is our whole system for building it that's coming up on your screen now. But the idea here is we're so busy building and doing and working and traveling. And believe me, I'm over 50% travel, that we just lose touch, we lose connection. And social teaming is about this methodology about being more connected. And this in this time and age, this is critical, man. We need to be connected with each other. We need to, and when you connect, I just texted somebody else and I said, hey, I noticed we have a conference call tomorrow. I want a Zoom call. I want people on their computers with their faces. And this is like a multi-million dollar deal. And they were like, well, I think we're going to confuse people. I said, I don't care. I want people to see each other's faces. In today, what's going on, this is critical. So I know many of us are just used to audio, we're just used to talking, but let's make sure that we go out of our way once we learn these things how to really be face to face remotely. Okay, does everybody agree to that? Does everybody get my sentiment there? Because I think this is a time where we need to be, everybody that can hear my voice, you are the thought leaders in remote working right now. Right now, many of you, whether you've done it before or haven't done it before, you are the ones that are learning this. Now you go teach this. You teach it to your employees, your children, your family, your friends, your clients, your prospects. This is the time where we need to step up and step out and let people know that no, it's not just hunker down and wait to see what happens. Let's make some stuff happen. Let's make these face-to-face connections happen. So super cool. All right. So real quick, let me get a beat on where everybody's at. So I'm just gonna go here and do a poll. So where do you stand? So do you like, are you used to still just doing conference calls where you do like 1-800-FREE conference or whatever that number is, virtual meetings, things like that? I'm gonna launch a poll. Now, the reason we launch polls is we like to get data. So this is cool, like in GoToWebinar, they have a way that when you're responding to the poll is that, and you can click on multiple responses here. So when you are doing this, oh yeah, Tony has Uber conference that he just gave a shout out to. And I know there's a ton of these. I just thought we would share the ones we're most familiar with. And then because we couldn't cover them all. But the idea here is really making sure that you understand your audience, making sure that you can share information. So like right now, I can see that, you know, 93% of you, 44% of you have voted. Where's the rest of you? Hopefully it's a bandwidth issue and you're coming along and voting here. You should be on your screen. So Andrea, Adam, oh yes, I can see you're looking at something else. You don't know that, but I can see that. So the idea here is that you can pop up, see the screen, and participate. You want engagement. Remember how important engagement is. So now I have 67% of you voted, which is a little light. Usually we get about 80% of the people. So maybe I need to do a better job of engaging with you to get you to engage. So here we go. So now if I close this out, I can share this with you. So now instead of seeing my slide, you actually see that this is what is important with 70% of you voted, which is usually the average response we get. Some people are shy or maybe they're just on their phones or can't vote, you know, because they're driving, which we don't want you to. But you'll see that only 9% of you are brand new to all this. So those of you that are on together, make sure you partner and help those 9% out. Those of you who have live streamed before, you could help out, you know, maybe the others that want to live stream. People that are 75% on conference calls but haven't done virtual meetings. John's like, I'm sorry, I had to go get coffee. I get it, man. And Margaret's multitasking. So I love the confessions here. It's awesome. But the idea here is I want you to help each other out. So you have people all around you, people you're working with, clients. Like I said, you are the thought leaders in what you're about to learn. So let's keep going. So I'm going to hide this and get back to the program here. So let's just go through the agenda. State of today's work environment. I've given you a little bit of that, but let's just talk about some reality shifts that we're making. We'll get into meetings and webinars and webcasts, and then give you some process checklists and hopefully enough tools to at least get in a direction. So I think it was a month or so ago, I released this. Are you losing 80% of your referrals to your digital footprint? And you heard me talk about content is in the middle. And even though we're all about the people, we manufacture thousands of pieces of content, including this. This is content. The slides are content. The blog I'm going to write off of this is a content. The video is content. So you have the ability to produce content, thought leadership content, and build your digital footprint. That's what you're doing every time that you take something, record it, and put it externally out to the world. In fact, I'm working with a company called S2AModular.com, and they are revolutionary. They have shifted their business. They were doing a bunch of live events for raising capital and getting their message out there. And we literally just shifted the CXO team to now, within 72 hours, they did webinars and they're getting 1,000 people a week. That's 1,000 leads a week minimum of people that want to do business with them, people that want to fund their company, people that want to learn about energy and renewable energy and modular homes. And you'll see me posting more about this. But they made the shift. And now what we're doing is helping to take all the CXOs, all the employees, the sales staff. They just hired 5 new salespeople, and we want to get those people on the map. We want to give them a digital footprint so they're not seen as salespeople or someone trying to sell you something or to get money to invest in their company, but to see them as humans that want to form a partnership. And that's really building a thought leadership based digital footprint. So if you didn't get to this article, just go to my Dean Delisle LinkedIn account. It's an article that's published on there, or our blog page on Social Jack, and you'll see it on there as well. But it's worth the read. It's worth, we can't dig into too much of this now. But the idea here is whether you're stuck at home or you're in an office all by yourself, now's the time to pause and create content of some capacity while you have some of that in between time. So really that's the shift in the mindset of, even if you're shut down completely, you could still make phone calls, you could do meetings like this face to face, you can still build content. So make sure you're thinking that way, okay? Meeting. So what are some of the virtual meeting? Now, this is a webinar that you're on, but a meeting would be more interactive. I would have open mics for everybody. We would have the capacity to do that. So does anybody have a mic that's working on their computer that I could open their mic up and just give an example of this a little bit? First person that responds, I'll give you a shot at being on the air. How's that? Okay, John O'Reilly gives me a yes. John, let me find you in the list of people here. Again, I told you there's some improv going. All right, John, I'm going to unmute you. So, John, can you hear me? John O'Reilly, can
Sorry
you
about
hear
that.
me?
I had to click allow. Sorry about that. So I
Good.
just
And
want to say thank you
John,
very
have
much
we
for
ever
this on.
have we ever met?
I don't think so.
Well, it's good to meet you now. How's that?
Good to meet you too. Thanks.
Good. So tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do.
I'm in Carlsbad, California. I have a financial services practice. I help individuals and families with financial planning and investing. And I also help small business owners with overseeing their company retirement plans, 401ks, etc.
Good, good, awesome. So thank you for playing along with us, and I definitely want to talk to you because I have a project at the Carlsbad Airport out there. I'd like to talk with you. So,
I serve on the airport board. I'm appointed to the Palma Airport Advisory Committee.
oh my gosh, what a small world. We will be talking, I promise you. Well, thank you for chiming in today. I'll be
Yeah, you
circling
bet.
back with you. And then I can control muting him. So I controlled unmuting him and things like that. So normally we wouldn't do that as a surprise. And I want to shout out to John, in Carlsbad. Thank you so much for doing this. It was totally improv. We just decided to do it at the moment. Even Jackson in production is like, what are you doing? Jackson, did I surprise you?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, good. So with that being said, with meetings, typically you open up and everybody's mic is on. And what you want to do is make sure that you orient people to please mute your mic if you're not talking, because there's background noise. You're picking up your coffee cup, you're setting it down, and there could be noise bumping in, not even realizing you're doing it. And it's very distracting in that. So if you're on a collective meeting, just as a courtesy, ask people to do that. And we'll cover a little more best practices. But as we look at it, it's cost effective. You can connect from anywhere with Wi-Fi or, data, as long as you have data, mobile apps. I should have said that GoToWebinar has a mobile app you can log into. Effective illustrations, we can get crazy with drawings and annotations, and I'm not going to get too much into that today. Sharing of information, increased opportunities. So because you can't travel, it really increases your opportunities. And then we have really increase of productivity and inefficiency. So what do I mean by that? So now all of a sudden you have a situation where the people, the team needs to meet, but not everybody can be there. So we have Morgan, who's at home with a baby, even though he's, I think, almost a year, has still a baby. So there's times where we need to be just more efficient. Not everybody can physically get together, even when we could travel. So it really helps with productivity and efficiency, which always goes to revenue. We don't even have time to dig into the monetization part of this. But please understand that once you get better at this, you generate more revenue and bottom line. Training, we do all of our training this way. So we train on all 7 continents. We have people from Germany on today. Shout out again, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, all over the world. We can broadcast and train people anywhere in the world. So think about right now. You know so much that you're probably not sharing or not sharing enough. This is your opportunity, even in a meeting mode, where you could have a conversation with somebody, tell them that you're recording. Yes, we're recording, so you can listen to this later, but tell them that you're recording so that all of a sudden you can share this with your team. And maybe it's a training opportunity on the inside, maybe it's one on the outside, and maybe as you record enough of these, it becomes training that you could monetize and sell. So, again, there's all kinds of things. You might do webinar or training, use this GoToWebinar because, again, you can record this class, call this a class because you're learning. We could package this and actually sell this if we wanted to, but we're really trying to help people because we can't possibly service everybody that needs to go virtual on meetings and conferences right now. So we want to make sure we're helping you. So again, it's either goodwill, PR, thought leadership, or it's monetization. Then we get into, we call dynamic pivot. So what I just did was a dynamic pivot. So that means that, oh my gosh, there's some improv, and Jackson, who's in back on production, he is an improviser with Second City, and so they are taught in Second City how to improv, how to pivot. Well, in business, those of us that can pivot, like in today's world, can shift meetings, like I'm shifting that conference call tomorrow with all my might to not just be on a conference line, but to be on video conference. I'm pivoting, right? So I'm changing. So dynamic pivots in meetings mean that all of a sudden I want to, instead of doing this, I decide I want to show you a screen on the back end of how this webinar is assembled. So all of a sudden I just pivoted, I went off track. I can literally do that in a second. So, and then I can switch back to the virtual meeting and I can decide that in the moment. So I call those dynamic pivots. I don't even think you can find that anywhere. It's just what I call it. Yes, John, we will get you, Jackson, we'll either try to get it to you, but we'll get everybody the handouts. So don't worry about, again, getting hung up on downloading the handout if it's given you. Or again, we're pushing video, audio, and sharing screens, and you're trying to download. Wi-Fi's internet's overloaded right now, so it's just a fact. I don't know if you heard that in the beginning. Lead conversion, sales, but really very little reporting. So most meeting softwares just don't have reporting functions because it's designed for collaboration. Now they're getting better at it. There's more and more reporting available, but it's just not there yet. But we use it more in sales. So we might use webinar to get leads, and then we might use meetings to do the conversion or the close as part of that sale. So just realize that's part of it. Now, some common features: personal meeting, private meeting rooms. So like Zoom, I know for a fact, has what's called breakout rooms. So tomorrow, when we're in this meeting in DC remotely, we're going to have a work session where we take 30 people, and we're going to break them up into groups of 5 and put them into rooms and have breakout sessions where they can actually do those exercises. We'll have moderators that make sure they come back, and we're just doing that with Zoom. GoToMeeting is getting there, but they're just not quite there yet on that. Illustrations, whiteboard, remote control. I could, if you're an organizer, give you control of my system to click on my screen if I'm collaborating, and on a meeting as well as a webinar, I could give you remote control and actually have you take control of my screen. So if you're an engineer and we're doing a sale and I want my engineer to point some things out, now again, Make sure the bandwidth is there. It's better if you can hard plug into the internet and make the best shot possible of that audience being able to see all that. VoIP dial-in options. So again, where most of us are on voice over IP, that means we're channeling the same audio through the video in the same pipe, of the internet. Where if we want to maybe have a little better shot of audio not cutting out, or maybe too much bandwidth, we can dial in here and really have a cool opportunity to hear crisp audio along with that. Closed caption. A lot of systems now have closed caption that while you're talking, you put that on there. We typically do that afterwards because as much as voice has come along, it's still not perfect. So, most of you, a lot of you have done dictation and voice technology, and you just know it's getting great. In fact, when I blog, sometimes I just talk into my blogs and it's 90% there, but it's just not 100% there. And so you could get profanity that pops up on the screen and, things like that. Breakout rooms and support. Now, what I want to tell you is just a public service announcement. True story. I don't know if you heard it on the news, but this week, a woman was in a meeting, and literally it was a group of people, and they're all on a big screen. And what happened was she forgot to mute, and she took her laptop to the bathroom to stay in the meeting, and you can use your imagination from there. So please be aware that when the light's on your camera, you're on camera. Please be aware that if your microphone button is green, people can hear you. If you want to sneeze, you mute. You can either mute your microphone, and I have a Turtle Beach microphone here, or you can use the button on the toolbar and press that. Hey, Stephen, how you doing? You can also have cool things like this. I'm holding up a headset. So this is all USB, all current technology. You can have this, plug it in, and this is the best noise canceling technology out there. Let's see, you can see that I have an earpiece. That's my preference. I could have used my speaker, although I do fear sometimes that if I'm using an external mic like this, that will work. There's also Bluetooth headsets out there that are pretty cool. This is a nice one by let's see, Logi, Logi. I just ordered it off of Amazon. So there's all kinds of things you can do. And if you have questions about that, we have little mini coaching programs we're helping people out with getting their podcast off, or what equipment to buy, or getting them set up. But you can Google it. There's a ton of YouTube videos on that too. Make sure that you do have a support line so that if people are having meetings, they have somewhere to call into. I'm going to keep moving because I have a lot to cover. So we're going to cover GoToMeeting, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and 8x8. So in GoToMeeting, this is the new version, and there's an old version to the right that some of you might be running, and some of you might be on this new version that is Centerpoint on there. So again, with GoToMeeting, they have been around one of the longest besides, oh my gosh, I used to be a dealer for this company, and now I can't even, I can't remember the name. Anyway, if I can't remember the name, that's bad for them, right? So they have HD video, screen sharing, web audio, and again, you'll get these slides. Dial-in conference lines, like I said, separately from the audio here. Unlimited meetings, there's no counter that says you only get 20 meetings. No meeting time limits, business messaging, co-organizers, which means I could assign Jackson, or I could assign John, or Jim Willandy, or anybody in here as a co-organizer. So if I can't make the meeting can still happen without me. That's an important feature. Unlimited cloud recordings. That means that we're using the internet to store the recordings, not our computers, which is happening right now. Transcription. This is a big deal. This is new. So that when you're done, you have a transcription of your meeting. How about that? So that this is being transcribed, so I can easily turn it into a blog post. I love that feature. Margaret, you guys should be using that at the university. Let's see. This is some new stuff, Smart Assistant, note taking. So again, you can look at all these, but I think the most important features are the ones that are in alignment with what I talked about. So again, making sure it's easy to use, people can get in, and you can see that it's real. Yes, I have checked the accuracy of the transcription feature, and I love it. So you know, like I said, it's as if I'm transcribing like right here into my Word, Microsoft Word. It's going to be 80%. You still have to read and edit it, so nothing's 100%. It's reasonable depending on your budgets, $12 a user, 16 for business. And again, we'll send out all the links on these in the follow-up email along with the recording so you can dig into these a little more. I'm giving you the highlights just because of the time. We're still not into webinars yet, goodness. So you get with Zoom, you get a free account, unlimited usage, but just 40 minutes of meetings. And I can't remember the last time yeah, and John uses Hangouts too, so Google Hangouts. But again, we can't cover everything. So keep shouting them out, man. We'll keep sharing them too. So you can have a free account. You know, unlike GoToWebinar, you can have a free account trial with GoToWebinar, and then you have to pay eventually. With Zoom, they're counting on the fact that 40 minutes isn't enough, and you're just going to go up to the $14.99 and buy their next version of meetings. They do have a very good online support. Their chat is super cool, and their video conferencing is one of the best out there with you know, with HD and things like that. And then they have business and they have enterprise, and it gets down to user counts and number of hosts and things like that. So as we get into some of these, this is an example of the screen. I had it up earlier. Very easy to use, very intuitive. I like the interface. The help is right down there in a bubble. You click the button, somebody jumps on, and you get that. And the training button is up there to the right. So I do like their layout. GoToWebinar has been known to be a little bit clunky out there, but you know, they've gotten better with their new interface. You can see there's room management, Zoom rooms, things like that. And most of these all have now calendar integration, which means that, you know, the integration between your Outlook or your Google Calendar are all included. And this is what it looks like when you have about 50 people on the screen at one time. So this will probably be our family on Friday night. Not quite that many, but you notice that you can have features and things like that. But do realize that when you're in one of these, you're on camera, so people can see what you do. If you get up, you walk away. So we always recommend that you simply mute. So I can, one click of a button, I can literally turn off my webcam. There it goes, and I can turn it back on. So I control that, and the organizer can control that too if they have a producer. Mostly that's on the webinar site. Now keep in mind you can eject somebody out of a meeting or a webinar. So there are controls where I could say, you know, if Jim Melandi's misbehaving, I can say that because he's my buddy. But if he's misbehaving, I could kick him out, but he cannot come back in. So just know that once you kick somebody out, they're out for good. So if somebody is something bad's going down or whatever, you can't get a hold of that person. You can't mute them for some reason because they dialed in on a erroneous line. You can boot them out of the meeting. So does this make sense so far? Is everybody with me? Give me a yes. I just want to make sure I still have you in there. So, and are you getting some good nuggets out of this? Make sure I'm on track. Good. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to put this up here. This is for our meeting tomorrow. I'm doing this with Sequence Consulting. When we do enterprise gigs and we're really helping to put together communication plans and things like that, Fortune 500 clients, we partner with Sequence on a lot of these. So we were talking about, this is a real life problem. We were talking about building a quadrant for this organization. And when we do this, you know, we were trying to figure out how do we do this remotely. Usually we do this with whiteboards and we do this in a room and we have sticky notes, and you guys have done this, you know, you do workshopping. So in this, we're like, okay, what do we do? So I didn't have time to show you the whole thing, but what we're doing is we're gonna number these on the left, A through whatever. We're doing that today. And so then we're going to have these quadrants. And then when people are responding, they can go A1, A2, A3, A4. And so the work groups can actually document where they think these items on the left should go in the quadrant on the right. And those of you that don't know quadrants, I'm probably confusing you, but just an example of how to be innovative and how to pivot and how to make sure that when you're doing things that are 100% previously in person, that now even workshopping, you can just get creative. And we just figured this out yesterday together. What can we do to make this exercise beneficial? We need this stuff. And we have a bunch of people to facilitate, and we have these breakout rooms, but this was just an idea we came up with yesterday, so I figured I would share it with you. So hopefully that makes sense. But again, think about how you can do that, and then we can capture all the chat because it's recorded, and now we can know exactly what the results are, and we can then go to a whiteboard or whatever in the office or in our homes and map it out that way. Microsoft Teams, I like it. We use it with a lot of our enterprise clients. It's included with Office 365. It's still a little bit clunky at first because it's like, you got to get used to where stuff is at. Good team collaboration. It's not just a meeting software, but it's a collaboration software. But just note that audio conferencing is extra. So if you want to dial in, you're paying $4 a user on top of your other license to get that conferencing to happen. Okay, so just keep in mind about that. All right, but Teams is still a good option, still clean. I haven't any problems with it. You can do all the features that we talked about. A new surprise entry on the list just happened a week ago from my buddy Jim Willandy, and we do the facilitation. Thank you, Margaret. So we have 8x8 phones, and I thought they were always a phone company, but they have a meeting software that is free. So I figured if it's free, up to 100 people with all the features, I got to talk about it. So we will get you a link to this as well. But startup to enterprise solution, they're integrated with phones. So if you have a meeting and you want to just hit somebody in a warehouse or another building or another country, it's all fully integrated. It's feature rich. And it's got a real lean client software. I meant to put lean client up there. You can tell I was doing this late at night, but it's a lean client software. What do I mean by that? Like when I invite people, it's like that. And half of the problems we have with some of the meeting software, it's like I couldn't get in, the link didn't work, my browser's not compatible. Now you have to have Chrome with this, but as long as you're running Chrome, they have a mobile app that's clean and everything else. It really gets you to a level of just having a lot of features. And here's a screenshot. You can see my camera is here on the bottom right. You can see that I can have the meeting shared here. I can share content. They have closed caption at a click of a button, which I really like. So rather than just hearing the person, I can actually see on my screen, not everybody sees it, but I see it, of what people are saying, and the words are popping up and it's scrolling down on the bottom, and it's pretty awesome. They have recording, you can mute everyone. You can look at the stats on the speaker. You can leave feedback. You can also, straight from here, go to streaming. So we're going to talk about streaming in a minute. But what I mean by that is if all of a sudden I wanted to pump this out on my YouTube page, like that. Zoom has that feature, but only in webinar. But this is in 8x8 meetings, and it's free. So we will get you a link to that with the autoresponders to make sure all those links to all these that we're talking about are in here. But 8x8 meetings, we'll send you a link to that. Super cool and new on the charts. So webinars and webcasting, you're on a webinar. So you are on a webinar, as we talked about. Webinars are cost effective as long as, depending on the number of people that you need. You should always have a hard line, but it's not perfect. It's the internet. My neighbors are on, the kids are home from school. Everybody's using this bandwidth that I'm on, and I'm sharing this with the world, just like your neighbors are. Connection usually from anywhere. So when I was in hotel rooms all the time, be nothing to webcast out of hotel rooms, even lobbies. But again, if you're in a noisy spot, you want to go more this route with the headset. I've done it from airports, which are noisy. Even in the clubs, it's just noisy. visual content. So a lot of the features are the same, but more what I like about webinars is that with the features is that not only the audience control, but the reporting and the lead generation. So to this date, until somebody proves me wrong, GoToWebinar, the reason we still use it, even though it's a little older, but they have fresh technology, is it's very stable, it's global for webinars, but the reporting is second to none. So the lead reports and things like that. Now, we can make virtually anybody that reports out, like Zoom webinars we use for our Influence Factory and our podcast. GoToWebinar we use for things like this in education. So it records, it transcribes, and it also automatically goes into our CRM, like HubSpot. So we're HubSpot certified. So it's easy for us to plug all this data directly into HubSpot, and now it becomes sales leads, and it gets assigned, and they get emails, and blah, 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 and so it sort of helps with that whole lead generation to sales bridge. And then they use meeting software to meet with their prospects. So do you see the workflow there? And so GoToWebinar on the meeting side and stats, pretty much, I think so far are, that's probably their top in the game. Recording, cloud and local, mentioned breakout rooms. Most everybody has that feature now. And then the closed caption. So you'll notice some overlap with meetings, but there it is. And this is just a sample that you can, dissect, slice and dice webinars so that you can really get some ideas on this. But in the software, we're going to talk real quick about should have put GoToWebinar, Zoom webinars, and live meetings. So GoToWebinar, they have quite a bit of options. I'm not going to cover them all, but really, like I said, I think their strength is in the reporting, and you guys have experienced a ton of GoToWebinar because that. Scott says tips on teaching and instructing online. That could be a whole hour in itself, Scott. So we have Social Jack is a LMS, learning management system. So what we do is we hold our classes all over the world using GoToWebinar because we can have handouts, we can have videos that we can push through here. We can have all kinds of instructional type things, diagrams. I can do annotations if I want. I can draw on the screen. You can see I don't do a whole lot of that, but I can draw on the screen. I can instruct people. You can use laser pointers. There's all kinds of cool things that you can do on that. So the reason I like GoToWebinar, and they do have GoToTraining, but I don't like it. Sorry, guys. But GoToWebinar, because it's stable, it's been around. I can have 1,000 people or 10,000 people on if I want to, depending on the license. And it transcribes. I get the reporting, the attendance reports and everything are solid. Autoresponders are solid. So I like it for that. And the price point on this is for the light version, just the basics, which I've never used. I can't comment on that. We've usually had clients that are on the standard, and we use the pro version, and they will bundle GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar. But again, depending on your needs, and not everybody has to have a webinar license. You can operate with just one producer license or one organizer. So you see down here, under here, you can have 500 people, one organizer, for $199 a month. And then what the organizer can do is he can pick you and somebody else to be a panelist, and you still have a great production. So same with Zoom. You don't have to buy a license for everybody in the company for webinar. They could just have meeting licenses, or you could use like an 8x8 for meetings and GoToWebinars for marketing. So depending on your need, you can mix and match those things. Make sense? And then Scott, if you want to talk offline on instruction, I could talk for hours on that. We've been doing that since the Learn You University days when we were on dial-up. So we've been doing LMSs and instructional learning on that for a while. And then enterprise, we can have up to 10,000 people on our webinars, but we produce a lot of conferences as well. And I love the analytics. So you see a lead report here at the top, where you can actually get data, and based on the polling questions, I could run reports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I get overview stats, nice bar charts and reports that you can download. So it's pretty slick. Zoom. Zoom. Why do we use that for why do we use that for our influence factory? So Jackson, I don't know if you want to chime in here, but typically I think mostly it's because of the HD cameras for our guests, and coordinating is pretty simple. And then it has some tight integration with live streaming, right?
Yeah, so with Zoom, the coolest part, or the one of the coolest aspects is you have the ability to stream out right from there without needing an encoder or any additional software. Um, by just the click of a button, you can stream out to YouTube, you can stream out to Facebook, and you have a live green screen software built into um, the Zoom license or the webinar part of it. You can, or even the meeting software, you can have let's say you don't have a presentable background, or you're stuck at home and you're in your room and you have a green screen, so you can pop that up and now you can change your background to anywhere. It looks like you're in a conference room. It looks like you're in the kitchen. It looks like you're somewhere that is more presentable, but you can basically bring that environment to your PC, wherever that is, or your computer.
Yeah, I think on some of our episodes, and you customized the green screen background, so you just downloaded. I mean, it looked like you had a whole recording studio behind you, and so we had turned it off, and you could see just a green screen behind Jackson, but it looked like he had a whole recording studio. Then you had a cool one around the holidays with like a fireplace in the background.
And like a
Just,
Christmas tree and like stockings hanging. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
right.
and it helps with the graphic design stuff that, if you can, get someone, if you want something special and you talk to someone and you know someone that can do that, it's awesome because they can make it however, whatever size you need it to be.
Yeah, you could have pictures of your brand hanging in the background. Now, Bob asked a great question. Does Zoom allow for pushing videos? So the two big distinctions here on webinar is that if I want to share a video with you on Zoom, it's literally click, click, share. With GoToWebinar, I have to upload a video, which I didn't have time to do for today. But I would have had to have uploaded that video, or it would be super choppy if I tried to play it. Where Zoom is really good on video pushing. Yeah.
Zoom is really good for that because you can share the audio. You can share certain audio from certain windows only. You can, it's really selective and customizable on that aspect of it. And I think that's a huge reason of why I like it a lot, is because I can play audio from a certain source without it interfering or playing the audio from the actual webinar and looping it through. So I think
Yeah.
that is a very cool thing. Whereas you would have to, even if you want to share a YouTube video on GoToWebinar, you would have to find a way to pull that down and uh, get the MP4 file and upload that. So
Yeah, and no, your 14.95 a month subscription is meetings for Zoom. Oh yeah, no, you could do the video push from 14.95 a month. Yes, you can do that. But on the webinar where it's one to many, or you're doing panels or production, it's $40 per host per month, per 100 attendees. And we have, I think, we throttle. That's another thing to talk about, is Jackson. We throttle from 500 users to 1,000 users plus, and then we pay a surcharge for those additional users, but we don't keep our license at that high of a license. I think we pay 500 a month or something for one of those, but
yeah,
it's we throttle it based on the pack, or the event that we have, and you can't have the same organizer producing two events at the same time, so no cheating on that. You can't have, Bob, if you and I want to share a license, we would have to coordinate that.
yeah.
Yes,
One of the Yeah, and I would agree with that and say that I think another one of the coolest parts of Zoom is the fact that they give you an account person that is constantly emailing you, checking in. Do you need training? Do you need this? We have new features coming out. Like, let me show you how to use them and stuff like that. So they work with you, and basically all you got to do is call that person and be like, hey, we have one webinar that is like 100 over our maximum at this point. And he's like, okay, well, we'll just add an additional, like 300 users, and we'll, do that for this month. And then at the end of this month, you can, well, a lot of times what they do is they'll work with you and be like, hey, cancel it right after the webinar. And you'll pay for half the month, and you'll do things like that. So they're very willing to work with you.
Yeah, and Tony, to your question, $54.99 a month to use Zoom for video webinars. Yes, but that's only 100 participants, and you see it says plans ranging from 100 to 10,000. We have a 500 to 1,000 person license, depending on where it's at. So that's why when people hire us and we say there's a licensing fee, we charge them for that surcharge. So we pass that surcharge on to them, and then we charge them for the labor, the production, and things like that. So our license, I think we're at about 500 a month, right, Jackson? Because they don't tell you, you have to talk to somebody, but it's usually, scales at that level. But it depends, again, how many you want. No, we use their data. No, the data plan, that's everything. That's all in. We do not use our own servers for anything that I'm aware of, right, Jackson?
That's right.
Yeah. So we don't have time to go into all the live stream things because we want to make sure we get people moving along here. But live stream is Facebook Live, IGTV, Instagram TV, YouTube, LinkedIn Live, and is that Periscope, Jackson?
That is Periscope, which you don't see is Periscope anymore. Every time I give this presentation that I pulled this slide from, people are like, Periscope, and I'm like, no, yeah, you can still do it. I see people, Ellie Schnitt from Barstool Sports was live on Periscope last night. People are streaming live from Twitter. That's how quarantined everyone is. People are turning to Periscope. But it is not my favorite, because just the accessibility part of it. But if you're just streaming from your phone, and let's say your biggest following and your audience is on Twitter, then Periscope is your sweet spot, where you're going to do impromptu live videos. And I think that's
Twitter.
where
In
it
fact, they
shines.
were even when they were broadcasting like NFL and Major League Baseball on Twitter, that was through Periscope, I recall, right? They're using the platform, I think, for
Yeah.
that.
So, just like a few extra steps to stream sports and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to talk, Jackson's probably our #1 coach on all this. I know Tony P events, and those guys are working with Jackson on their events, conversion and things like that. So if you're interested in those things, we can definitely get into that. So real quick, convert to podcast. That's a whole nother discussion. If you want to take like an audio of this and convert it to podcast and put it on Google Play, Jackson, rattle them off because you do it faster than I do.
iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Spotify, Castbox, and YouTube.
There you go, just to name a few. So if people are really taking in podcasts as well as streaming, so and video. So if you want to go that route, make sure you talk to us or talk to somebody to help you convert to podcast. And this is going to happen. So this happened an hour ago when I was going to light up this webinar and do some testing, and all of a sudden it says we've experienced a breakdown. Now, if you're not used to this, this happens a lot. You get alerts and things like that. You just keep refreshing your page, reboot your routers. It's almost like whoever's in line and can catch that. In fact, some of you couldn't even get on this webinar, and you're probably listening to the recording, but it's just technology. It's where we're at and what it is, okay? So super fast. So I'm going to get into process and guidance, but before you guys have to jump off, when we talk about guidance, and I'm going to get you access to these, Jackson's going to send a link so you can download all of our checklists, all of our processes. But what I'm going to do is do a polling question like, what help do you need as I'm talking about this next piece? So some of you are still learning in this and you just need more info. And so you can go to socialjack.com to get that. Coaching on meetings and webinars, you might want a coach for that. Jackson's one of those coaches. I'm one of those coaches. Monica's one of those coaches. Joe Carnes is one of those coaches. Sometimes you just need help on that. And help converting a conference to a video conference. You might want some of that. And then help producing a show, which is a whole different conversation. But some of you, it's time for your show to come out as a thought leader. You want to do that. So when we think about 9 steps, and again, Jackson is sending out a link to everybody right now, so you can actually download this. You should have gotten it just now in your chat. You go through pre-marketing, campaign development, registration development, webinar development, marketing, registration review, deliver the webinar follow-up, and documentation, right, of systems and processes. And we've done some of that for you in that link that Jackson just sent up. We can definitely, you automatically get all of our checklists for webinars, webcasts, and a whole bunch of other tools in there. So make sure you go there. It's free, do not have to pay, just download it. But do me a favor. Do you promise? I want everybody to type in on this. Be ready. Do you promise that the things that you've learned today, that you will share it with somebody that you care about, a client, a friend, a colleague, your family, whatever? So do you promise, right? So do you promise to teach someone else, my thought leaders? I want a yes, a solid yes in the questions area. Look at that. I got Jacqueline, L, Patrick, Sylvia, Don, Margaret, Alton, Stephen, Barry, Tony, Lewis. Yes, because you know so much more than other people. You know now some of the answers, some of the questions. You're going to get the slide deck. You're going to get the download the kit. So please, we cannot help everybody, but you can. You can be our ambassadors. And the one thing that we ask is, as a favor, is, and again, you can go to Social Jack here and download a bunch of this stuff too, but could you please give us a shout out on social media and just say, hey, I learned so much from Social Jack, Dean Delisle, Jackson, just tag us out there and give us that extra sort of boost so that people know that they have a place to go to get some help. And again, we are backlogged. We're blessed to be backlogged with a ton of stuff. But we are giving you the tools so that you can do this on your own. In fact, an event company came to us yesterday and they were literally like, oh my gosh, can you help us with 35 conferences? I'm like, no, but you know what? We can teach you how to do it. That's the best we can do. We can show you our system, show you this stuff, and we will coach you. Yes, you'll have to pay us for coaching, but we will coach you. So we are here as coaches, as trainers too, not just a production company. But this is something that again, we can do with our eyes closed, but many of you, this is new. So we don't want you to like freak out and know that you're behind. You're just like a lot of other people that are getting on this and getting ready to rock. So please do yourself a favor, just jump into socialjack.com, get that link that Jackson got. We're going to send you links on 8x8 Microsoft Teams, Zoom, GoToWebinar, and some of the other things that we talked about, the link to the kit and all the other stuff. So I know we're over, so I can take a couple of questions, but we have a webinar coming up with looks like over 1,000 people in 2 hours that I have to do this on this. But I want to thank everybody while I have you. So any other last questions? Again, we covered a lot, but hopefully it was enough. Did everybody learn something new? Everybody learn something new? Yes, thank you. All right, so we'll get this recording processed. We'll get it out to everybody. Looks like the question queue is pretty much clear. We'll scan again. If we miss something, we'll hit you up. Please, please, please teach somebody else. Give us a shout out on social media, please. We can all use that extra help. And then if you do need help, hit us up. We'll get to you as fast as we can. And those of you that clicked on wanting some coaching and or production, we will we'll get back to you as quick as we can on that, probably early next week. So again, from all of us here, please stay safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face, public service announcement there, and make sure that you help each other out. This is a time when we're not to be shut down and disconnected. This is a time to be connected to support each other. So again, I want to thank you, everybody, and thanks, Margaret. I'll enjoy the happy hour. Talk to you super soon, and we will see you online building your influence. Take care, everybody.